Hi folks, Dave with DBS Tech Talk, and today we're going to do a comparison between three planar magnetic headphones. The MrSpeakers Aeon Flow Open, the Advanced Alpha, and the HE-4xx. Okay, we'll rank these in 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Build-wise, the HE-4xx is a nicely built headphone, has a nice leather headband, good metal yokes, and nice hard plastic caps and body for the cups with an aluminum grill. The stock pads were terrible, so I've replaced them with the Dakoni fenestrated sheepskins. Comfort-wise, they're very nice and comfortable, and I would give these a 3.5. Markings for the headband's a little bit on the thin padded side, and also the stock pads were terrible. The Advanced Alpha is just slightly heavier than the Hifiman, all metal build, has nice support tension band. It is a little stiff. When you put them on your head, the clamping force is just a little snug for some. I don't have an issue with it, but it can be a problem for some. And have had a durability issue that I need to make everybody aware of, and that is that the second pair of pads that come with these, the leather pads, broke. They actually pulled away from the seal and need to be replaced. So I have a warranty request out with Advanced to have new pads. Other than that, comfort-wise, they're okay. They do give a little hot spot there, and the clamp force, as I said, I would give these a 3 out of 5 in build and comfort. Aeon Flows, build-wise, is just top-notch. You have a really nice leather band, the knit and all headbands, and very light, extremely light. These are the lightest of the three. And comfort-wise, they go on your head and they're like pillows. The pads are the nicest stock pads I've ever had on a headphone, and they're just gorgeous to look at. I would give these a 5 stars. I do not have a complaint about the build. The stock cables that come with it, the cable that comes with the Aeon Flow Open is an okay cable. It's just got a little bit of an issue in which it's a little stiff and doesn't truly straighten out. Other than that, it's a very good cable. It does have those unique connectors, the high rose connectors. Other than that, it's a good cable. I would give it 4 stars. The only issue on it would be a little stiff. The stock cable for the Hifiman is not good. It's rubbery and thicker, and it just won't straighten out. It is nice and light, but it's just annoying and not good. I would give it 2 stars. Replace it if at all possible. The cable on the Advanced Alpha is very nice. Nice and light, small, thin, very well built, has a nice braid to it, and major complaint is it's short, and that's it. So I would give this a 3.5 because it's short for a desktop use, and there isn't really any other options to replace. You have to be very careful with it. Most Hifiman 2.5 millimeters will work on this, but it does seem to be a little picky when I put some headphones in or some cables in. I've tried a peri-op cable with it, didn't work at all. And then I tried the Hifiman OFC hybrid, worked great with it. And I've tried a couple from Bushman cable off of eBay, and those worked really well. But you take a chance with it. I don't know what it is with the internals in the headphone, but some connectors work, some don't. I would give that as I said, a good mark. 3.5. It's just, you have to be careful. All right, let's get down to the real meat and potatoes. How do they sound? All comparisons made in this review are made for these three headphones only. Does not apply to any other headphones. This is a review in comparison between the Aeon Flow Open, the HE-4xx, and the Alpha. Bass-wise, the bass on the Advanced Alpha is very linear, very well extended, and has good detail. It does seem to lack slam and thump. It is neutral-ish with a little bit warmer hint up on the upper bass, just a smidge, but it does lack impact. It is not near as forward or as impactful as the other frequencies are on the headphone. I would give it a 3 out of 5. The HE-4xx, on the other hand, has a little bit more of a thump and a slight slam hint to it. Has just as good details and extends well. Has a little bit more of a sub bass kick to it. I would give these a 3.5 out of 5. The MrSpeakers Aeon Flow Open has a really nicely extended bass. The has really good details and imaging in it, and has a slight hump in the mid bass and upper bass, which gives it a nice warmer tone to it and gives it really good impact. And these have a nice thump to them. They will get your head rolling. They are not bass head headphone, but they are a very well fun bass, I would call it. I would give these a 4 out of 5 on the bass. The only knock on the MrSpeakers would be it does lack a little bit of thump in the sub bass. Mids. The 4xx do have a slightly recessed mid section, but it is still a very lush and romantic sounding mids, and it is nicely detailed. Don't get any grain or any sibilance in the upper mid. It is a very smooth and luscious sounding mid, even though it is slightly recessed. I would also give that a 3.5. The Advanced Alpha's mid is more forward than the bass. It has nice tone and nice timbre to it, but it can sound a little sibilant and sharp in the upper mids. When it comes to the upper registers, there can be some graininess, and it does kind of play along with whatever the source it is and how it's being powered for the most part. But every now and then it will sound a little muddled also on busier songs. I would give that a 3.5 on the mid. The Aeon Flow Open has the best mids I've ever heard on a headphone. They have a nice warm texture to them, and they are very detailed and very clear. You do not get any graininess, no sibilance, and none of the shoutiness at all, unlike the Advanced Alpha. They are slightly laid back, but they are not recessed. They're just very, very romantic and smooth. Play well with any sort of music. Those mids are just wonderful. I would give them a 5 out of 5. Treble, the HE-4xx does have a slightly brighter sound. They are a little more extended on the on treble. You get good details and you do not have any graininess. The odd thing about them is the treble is slightly relaxed. It doesn't have a lot of energy or crispness in it, even though it extends well and goes. It just has a unique feature in which it just seems a little boring. I would give it a 3.5. The Advanced Alpha is a forward treble. It is in line with the mids, maybe a little bit higher, and it is also a brighter sound. You can get slight edginess, a little bit of harshness in the treble, and every now and then you'll get close to sibilant range. If you are treble sensitive, you will not like these. They portray details in a very forceful way. They do come across very very much in your face. They're on the borderline of being shouty. The mids also are on this. I would call the treble a 3.5. On the Aeon Flow Opens, the treble is got a warmer tone to it. It is not recessed, and I would just say it's more relaxed or laid back, but it extends really well, and it has good energy and crispness to it. It just has a way of portraying it effortlessly. They have really good detail and very good tone and very smooth. I would call this. I would rate this at 4.4 out of 5. Soundstage. Soundstage on the 4xx is very wide. I would give it a 4 out of 5 in depth. Or in width, excuse me. In the Advanced Alpha's case, the soundstage is not quite as wide as the 4xx, but it is still wide and has good size to it. And I would say this is a 3.5. The Aeon Open got a unique soundstage. These are a semi-open headphone, so the soundstage doesn't appear to be as wide as it really is. And I would say that I would rate the soundstage at a 4. And the reason why is because of the way that it portrays it differently. To me, it just sounds more natural and more true than the others. The other ones have a little bit more of an artificial width to them. Imaging and detail inside the soundstage. The 4xx has very good detailing overall, but the way that it portrays it within the soundstage, it does a pretty good job of letting you know that it's right, left, or center, but it doesn't have a lot of in between, so it's very direct on its imaging. But the details are very good on it, but you're going to know that's coming from the right, that's coming from the left, or from the center, that's coming from the left. There's none of this left center, right center, upper, things like that. It's very direct. I would say that's a 3.5. The Advanced Alpha, on the other hand, even though it has a little bit narrower of a soundstage, does a really good job on the imaging and detailing. And it's very clear on that. And you do get the all-round sound. and you get some of the levels. It has a very immersive sound to it, and you can get sounds fluttering around your head. But it can get a little discombobulated every now and then on busier songs. Things can kind of merge together and kind of clump together. I would give that a 3.5. The MrSpeakers, even though it's not as what you would perceive as being super wide, actually is. And it does a really good job on the detailing and imaging. And you can tell where things are, right, left, center, left, center, uppers, and it has very good width and depth and height to it. And they play very well. Where it does it uniquely is it gives a difference, whereas the other two, it sounds like you have speakers out here and it's pumping stuff in. On the Aeon Flow Open, it's more like your speakers are here, but things travel better in between. And so if something's close, it sounds close and you can tell where it's at. But if it's traveling outward, it sounds like it's going distant. It sounds like it's going away from you instead of just sounding like, okay, it's over there. It actually gives you that feeling of knowing where. And if things are coming at you, you can actually feel it coming in. It has a different way of portraying it and making it feel wide. You actually have to kind of pay attention. It draws you in. It's very immersive and cohesive and engaging soundstage with imaging and detail. And that's the reason why I give it a 4 out of 5. It's not for everybody. Some people like their sound way out there with lots of air and space in between. Whereas on these, you don't get that space in between, but you get that airiness, that feeling around the sound of it's going away from me or it's getting closer. So overall, both of the Advanced Alpha and the HE-4xx get a 3.75 for me. I know if you added up my totals, it probably doesn't come to that. But they come to an average of 3.75. They're both very good, and they're both very different. The 4xx has a little brighter, warm sound to it. It's a laid back with details and clarity, and a wider soundstage. The Advanced Alpha is a little bit more on the more neutral with a slight warm hint to it with aggressive mids and treble, and is not near as laid back as the 4xx. The MrSpeakers Aeon Flow gets a 4.5 out of me. To me, these are everyday driver quality. These play well with any genre, and they play well with most amps. The Advanced Alpha is very picky when it comes to amps and sources. The 4xx is not. So speaking of my sources, they all sound good on the APPJ PA1502A amp. The MrSpeakers is a little more sensitive when it comes to the volume knob. You have to be a little careful with that. You can overpower them. The Advanced Alpha and the 4xx both drive very well with that, and I find that that amp does the best at quelling the highs on the Advanced Alpha and making it sound more lush and a little bit on the warmer side without this super aggressive treble. The Audio GD NFB 12.1, that one's a little too analytical for the Advanced Alpha, and they become a little sharp and a little sibilant. The Geshelli Labs Arcal Pro, same thing. The Advanced Alpha tends to get a little shouty and a little too aggressive in the treble for my liking. The other two sound great on it. And it doesn't, and it depends on the DAC. Now the DAC that I'm using is the one that's coming out of the Audio GD. Switching over to the other side of my desk, I have the SMSL Sanskrit DAC power going into the Cavelli Tube Hybrid and the Aeon X7S. I find that the Aeon X7S has plenty of power for the advanced alpha, but it just doesn't match well. There's just something about it, get a lot of graininess and a lot of just harshness in it. So that's not a good mix. The Cavelli Tube Hybrid does play well with the advanced alpha. I find that it sounds good with it, but it sounds better on a full tube amp. I don't get it. Most planars aren't supposed to sound well on tubes, but that one likes tubes. It does work on the CTH. The HE-4xx and the AFOs both sound very good on both the Aeon X7S and the CTH. I actually like the CTH with the Aeon Flow Opens. It does add a little bit of soundstage to it and adds a little bit more, just goes well with the warmth of the headphone, and they're very luscious. But it takes away a little bit from the dynamics and a little bit of the energy in the treble. So the Aeon X7S, I'm balanced, I actually really like with the AFO. So depending on what mood I'm listening to and what kind of music I'm listening to, I will swap between the two of those. The HE-4xx plays well on either. Doesn't really matter for it too much. It's not super picky of a headphone when it comes to sources. At least I don't find. I do find that you get a little bit more bass impact when you use the Aeon X7S. The difference maker for the three headphones, though, is that the Aeon Flow Open has tuning filters that you can change out. And so if you go with the black tuning filter, it becomes more open, and it also adds a little bit more treble into it. It still keeps the warmth of the bass and the mids, even though it loses that tone a little bit. It's not quite as warm of a headphone. I do not like that sound. To me, the treble seemed to be a little too grainy. You can go without filters, and that adds to that fact that on some songs and stuff, it gets really sharp and can get a little sibilant. And so that's the reason why I go with the one notch, which are pre-installed. You can also go with the two notch filter, but to me, that just made it a little too warm. You still get all the clarity and all the details and all that, but it just mellowed it out and warmed it up a little bit too much for my preference. Not that it sounds bad, it just isn't my preference. So overall, these three headphones. The Advanced Alpha were my go-to headphone after I got rid of the M1060. But now the Aeon Flow Open has taken over as my number one planar. To me, it just sounds the most natural. It just sounds the most normal of what I hear and in real life. And it's just super comfy. The Advanced Alpha is still a good headphone, but it depends on what I'm wanting to do. Do I want to sit and listen and hear all the details and have a little bit more of an aggressive sound? I'll go that way. If I want to sit and chill and mellow out, I'm going to reach for the HE-4xx, but I'm still going to get the detail. So ranking them, I'm going to Aeon Flow put number 1, and then I would put the HE-4xx number 2, as it's a little bit on the more mellow side and not quite as aggressive, and then number 3 would be the Advanced Alpha. This is a tough call for me. I like all three, and I've really enjoyed getting to compare them all and listen and find out. And I'm realizing that my personal preference of sound is changing a little bit, and I'm turning towards being a little bit more on the warmer side of a headphone than the aggressive, more neutral, analytical side. It's funny how your ears change throughout the years. This has been Dave with DBS Tech Talk. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.